Hey guys, Sam here and welcome back to Samcraft. I have another video for you today that is 3D print related, and today is going to be a comparison between my current go-to filament of Bambu Lab with a new company I'm testing filament from known as Elegoo. So what I'm going to do today is test out a couple of rolls from Elegoo, compare it with a couple of rolls from Bambu Lab. We're going to, first of all, see how much moisture are in these rolls of PLA filament. Then we're going to do some Benchy print tests, compare results, and then finally round out with a little bit of pricing talk with bulk discounts and other things. So if this tickles your fancy, stick around because we're jumping into it. As we get started with this video, I want to make a couple of statements that's going to help you understand why and how I'm doing this video. First and foremost, none of this is sponsored. I purchased all of the filament myself with my money, and none of this was being prompted by manufacturers saying, hey, Sam of Samcraft, make us a video. Number two, as far as the manufacturers that I'm going to select across multiple videos like this that I'm going to produce, why I chose the manufacturers. I'm looking for manufacturers that have a robust supply chain, who can meet the demand of my 3D print business, who have good quality and stability of colors between lots and batches, and have a bulk pricing option. I'm not just looking for the cheapest thing out there. I'm not just looking for the random filament that might be on sale. I'm looking for building a long-term business relationship or supply chain that makes sense from a business standpoint. And then number three is that this is just the first of a couple of videos that I'm going to be doing as I explore options and manufacturers for filament. So if you know of some that meet my previous criteria that I've mentioned, leave me a comment down below. I'd love to check them out and add them to my list. All right guys, I have the filament fresh from the delivery service right at the parcel box at our house. This is exactly how it arrived, shipped directly from Elegoo. Now, I did use a heat gun and get rid of my address here, but otherwise, this is it. This is how my 5-pack of filament was shipped and how it arrived. So far, packaging, not that great, but in my other video where I talked about packaging, some of you guys fussed at me, so I won't complain too much, I guess, right? A lot of people said the point of the packaging is to protect the product. So if the product's good, quit your complaining. The product can just pop out of there. So Elegoo uses a cardboard spool. It's a little bit bent right here. It's got an edge bent here as well. It's compressed right here. So right offhand, the quality of this is not as good. Now, is the bending because of poor packaging, or is it bent because of the vacuum sealing? Don't know. We'll check out some others and see what we can come up with. This one doesn't have as extreme bending of the cardboard edges. So it makes me think this one might have been packaging related. Yeah, this cardboard spool looks fine to me. And yeah, cardboard profile looks good on the spool. I don't know if the camera is going to be able to see this very well or not, but it's got a big bend right here, and there. Now, I primarily use Bambu Lab A1 printers, and the spool holder for the AMS light is in the center. So this is not a big of an issue for me as if I was printing or had only P1S, P1P, or X1 carbon printers. I do have those models, I just don't use them as much because I have more A1s. All right, I just pulled 2 boxes of filament from my shelf over there. This is Bambu PLA Basic, green and blue, and by comparison, this is how the boxes arrive from Bambu. So a lot better. Now given from like the other video I talked about, I did get some that were kind of damaged, but nothing compared to Elegoo. So what I want to do is test out the blue and the green filament, and I want to do as best a job I can as doing a side-by-side test. So I've got a brand new roll of green and a brand new roll of blue from Bambu, and so what I want to do is take the Bambu and then the Elegoo and do some tests of these guys as best I can, comparing the two. Step 1 will be to load the Bambu refills onto their spools so we can actually use the things. So I've got 2 spools here. I'm gonna go ahead and load it up. And then what I want to do is get weights for these individual 4 rolls of filament. I want to get their pre-dry weight. We're gonna run them through the food dehydrator, which I use for filament drying, and we'll get our post-dry weight. This will tell us 2 things. one, does my system actually work? And two, how much moisture did we remove from the units? All right, overall look at the Elegoo wrap. The blue is definitely a better spool quality, but comparing it to Bambu, honestly, the Elegoo looks better. It's a tighter spool, maybe a tighter roll. I don't know if that's going to equate into less jams or clogs or tangles, but Elegoo definitely is tighter, whereas Bambu, you can hear that, it's a loose wrap. All right, getting my postage scale, we're gonna go ahead and get our pre-dry weights of all of the filament, and I'm just gonna write their weights on the side of the spool, probably in pencil, so I can erase it for the reusable Bambu spools. So let's go ahead and do that. First up is Elegoo. This is at 1,148 grams, so 1148. The blue weighs in at 1,130 grams. Pretty good consistency there. I mean, we have 18 gram difference between the two. That's pretty nice. The Bambu Lab blue, given this is going to be heavier, it's a plastic spool, is at 1264. And then the Bambu Lab green, 1258. All right, let's take these guys over to the dehydrator now. Now let's go ahead and just stack them right. Let's not try and get fancy. Welcome to the next day. Let's go ahead and unload the dehydrator, get these spools out, and do some weights. All right, guys, I have finished weighing the filament, and I've got myself a little note card here so I can remember the data, and we've got some interesting stuff. So first of all, Bambu Lab Blue PLA. Initial weight, 1264. Dry weight, 1260. We removed 4 grams. Of the green from Bambu Lab, 1258 initial, 1254 dry, another 4 grams removed. On the Elegoo, the blue weighed in at 130 before and 130 after, so 0 grams removed. The green weighed in at 1148 before and 1146 after, which is a reduction of 2 grams. And then a spool of white from Elegoo I tossed in there just for kicks and giggles, weighed in at 1146 before and 1144 after. So you might be thinking, 4 grams, 2 grams, close enough, sounds great. Well, I went into the house and robbed the kitchen drawer because I wanted to show you exactly how much 4 grams of weight equates if we're talking about water. Here is a little syringe for medicine, and it is full of 4 grams worth of water. This is a lot. Let's go over here where I can squirt this out. Let me show you guys this, because this was surprising to me. All right, I'm gonna hold it over top of my sink, but you guys just focus in on the pretty face here. Take a look at this. This much water was in 1 spool of filament from Bambu Lab. That's 2 milliliters worth. So that, okay, we'll say it's Elegoo. Rounding out the other 2 milliliters worth, that's this much in 1 spool from Bambu Lab. That's a lot of water. So I'm 100% confident, I'm 100% sold that my drying process is worthwhile. I do remove moisture from filament, and as we can tell, it looks like Bambu Lab might be a little bit wetter than Elegoo. What I want to do next is actually run through some test prints with the filament. So I was looking briefly at, like, are there default Elegoo settings for Bambu Lab? That was a rabbit trail. I then looked for any kind of default lists and couldn't really find much. So what I'm going to do is use the default settings from my software for the Elegoo. I'll put it in there as generic PLA, again using default settings, and we'll see how it goes. For the Bambu Lab, I'll put it in there as Bambu Lab PLA Basic, which is what it is, and use those default settings. I don't want to get hung up in this video trying to go too in depth with calibration and it taking a long time, because honestly, I'm just testing it out to see if I like the stuff or not. Yes, I know calibration will make a big difference. So let me run through some initial tests. If it looks like junk, if it prints like junk, I'll backtrack, I'll calibrate. But let's do some bench tests first. To try and make this as fair a comparison as possible, I'm going to load Bambu Blue and Elegoo Blue onto the same printer. One thing I really like is that the Elegoo spools fit directly onto the AMS light. That is very important. Now, there are adapters you can get for other manufacturers, but we're not talking about them today. Today's Elegoo day. So we'll go ahead and load this guy up. Feed it in. Spin it back there and tighten down the bolt to keep everything stable. All right, down here on the printer, let's go ahead and go into our filament. And let's tell it the spool 4. I'm going to edit generic PLA, color blue, and dynamic pressure control default. So we're going to leave that just as you see it, basic. So tap OK here. There we go. Now let's go back. Let's go to print files and let's scroll down to the original Benchy that comes with the Bambu A1. There we go. This guy. We'll tap next. Let's go ahead and print with Elegoo first. There we go. And we are off and running. Alright guys, to maintain as much repeatability or accuracy of this test, I'm going to use the same printer and I'm just going to unload the blue filament and then load in the green. Alright, same kind of situation here. We're going to go to the filament. We're going to choose the roll 4. Going to edit, generic PLA. We'll just change the color to green and leave the dynamic pressure control as default. Tap OK, go back, print our file. There we go. Use next, and we're going to do Elegoo first. So spool number 4. Alright guys, let's take a look at these little Benchies, and I'm going to overlay some footage as I talk. First up, let's take a look at the Elegoo Blue Benchy. Looking at this straight out of the printer, we've got some pretty good results. There is some stringing, so it is not perfectly dialed in, but as far as running from that generic PLA profile in the printer and not being calibrated, this is actually pretty good. So this absolutely could get cleaned up with just a couple of calibration steps, just kind of tweaking and dialing in the settings there. I think you'll have great results. Comparing it with the blue Benchy with Bambu PLA, I mean, of course, perfect results. There's no stringing, the bridging looks great, the layer lines are nice and tight, there was no problems with adhesion, no layer shift, and it looks perfect, which is what you would expect, especially with Bambu scanning it, applying their own settings, and rocking and rolling with their default in-house filament. Changing over to the Elegoo Green Benchy, we can see that this green model has less stringing, so not as much as the blue, and the quality overall is just as good as the blue Benchy, if not a little bit better. Just like with the blue Benchy from the Elegoo PLA, taking some time to run through some calibration tests to really dial in your settings with Elegoo is going to give you great results. Comparing it to the Bambu Lab Green, there is, first of all, a considerable differences in the color green. Now, given the Elegoo, this is not green. I think they call it neon or lime green or something like that. So it's not supposed to be identical, but there is a little bit of difference. But otherwise, that Bambu Green Benchy looks just as good as the blue. Again, you're dealing with Bambu's filament. It's reading it. They've already done their calibrations and everything. So, of course, you would expect it to be just as good as it is. So from those results, you could say that Elegoo was not as good as Bambu, but remember, we used a generic PLA profile and we have not calibrated anything. So I am confident with just a little bit of time spending calibrating your filament settings, you would get just as good of a quality out of Elegoo as you would with Bambu Lab. So to round out this video, I think you're going to be fine whether you choose Elegoo or Bambu Lab. Elegoo, as long as you calibrate it, you'll have great results. I really think you will. Also, we saw how dry or wet these filaments were when they arrived, of which Elegoo arrived to my shop drier than Bambu Lab. So that's a very important thing. Drying your filament is one of those things that you hear a lot. Hey, is your filament dry? Your filament dry? Well, how interesting was it to see that this dehydrator took out 4 milliliters of water out of each of those Bambu Lab spools, but only took out 2 out of the Elegoo. Neither one of them is great in my opinion, so definitely I'm still an advocate of drying your filament, even your PLA, but big difference between Bambu and Elegoo, right? I guess the last thing to talk about would be the price differences between the two, and that's going to fluctuate based upon sales, but it's really going to fluctuate more based upon the quantity you buy. Both Bambu Lab and Elegoo offer bulk discounts, which means depending upon how much you buy, you get a greater or lesser discount. I chose Elegoo as my first option because as I've looked at other suppliers of filament, Elegoo was one that was highly recommended and had the bulk discount option. So I figured, why not? We'll give them a try. In the time of mentioning filament in my community post I did on the channel, I got a lot of other suggestions for filament companies, so I'm also checking into others, of which one really is very appealing to me because they are 100% made in the USA, the entire filament. I really like that. So needless to say, there's going to be more content on this subject down the road. However, hopefully you enjoyed this video comparing Bambu Lab filament to Elegoo filament. If you've got questions or comments, leave them for me down below. If you've got other videos you'd like to see me make, definitely give me ideas down below as well. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.